Welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils postgame show, brought to you by the one and only DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download today using code PHNX and receive $150 in free bets when you place just $1 on any football game this week. I'm joined with the play-by-play man himself of Cal Baptist, if I'm not mistaken, Braiden Bell. Braiden, how you doing today?
I'm great. How you doing, Shane? Thanks for having me on. It was last minute, but hey, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm stoked. Pretty different game than last week for sure. There weren't as many hankies flying around. A lot of different play calling, some weird stuff that we pulled out of the bag, or that Herm pulled out of the bag rather. And yeah, I thought it was overall a pretty fun game to watch.
It was needed. And first off, we were just talking before we started this live, and you said only 7 penalties for 90 yards. Still not great, but when your standards are so high, it did seem a lot better. And yeah, I think overall, of course, it kind of got a little hairy at the beginning of that second half when Colorado scored to make it 14-10. But from then on, I was really impressed with Arizona State. And really for the first time all year, that second half, besides that opening drive, I thought they kind of got things clicking on both sides of the ball for the first time we'd seen really all year.
Yeah, definitely. The start of the game, I think this Colorado's slow start really helped the Devils gain some confidence. The penalties, they just kill, man. There were so many at the start for this Colorado team. Some dumb ones too, like the hit to the head on Jaden, where it was basically a punch that was called on a third down, I believe. It's 15 more yards. But yeah, they kind of got their swagger early. They lost a little in the second quarter. And I think aside from the injury, I hope he's okay. But Braiden Bell just looks like one of the best linebackers in all of college football right now. He flies all around the field.
Total leader. And he's like that key cog on the defense. And the defensive line looked pretty good tonight as well. I was really impressed with how they were able to, stuff up the run. There were only 44 rushing attempts. They got 183 yards, and a lot of those were in the second half. But especially that first half, I mean, Colorado could barely get out of their own backfield. So really impressed with that. You mentioned Darian Butler, of course. He's such a leader. And then in the secondary as well, I was really impressed in terms of obviously a ton of experienced guys back there, but they finally showed out, I think, as well for the first time all year in terms of a really solid game all around. And of course, it's Colorado and their offense is terrible, but you got to take what you can get. And especially after a game like last week, anything positive needs to be appreciated.
For sure. And I think the star of today's game was Rachaad White. There's a reason why Mel Kiper has him, I think, 4 in his running back list for the upcoming draft. He just has that vision, and he's so patient. We saw it on the double pass from Pearsall near the end of the game when he caught it, ran for about 15 yards, and then kind of waited patiently for the blocking to develop. And we had some great blocking, or they had some great blocking downfield today. And yeah, he just has great vision, and he's having fun out there. I mean, the hurdle on their second to last drive was just electric. I lost my mind.
Looked like Manny Wilkins.
Yeah.
It literally looked like a throwback to Manny Wilkins. But yeah, you're totally right. And I'm so excited. Hopefully they get Chip Trayanum back for next weekend against UCLA, because we haven't really yet to see all 3 backs with Nagata, Trayanum, and White together. And I think if you can kind of make that a 3-headed monster, it could be really difficult to defend that, along with Jaden, who of course can run so well.
Yeah, definitely. As you said, Trayanum still, I think he's still in the boot. And then Chase Lucas wasn't available again today, still dealing with some head stuff. But I thought Jack Jones played a hell of a game. The whole secondary in general stepped up. The linebacker core was great. And again, it's Colorado. Their offense doesn't score very many points, but I liked what I saw for sure tonight from the defense.
What's the over-under on the amount of times we say it's Colorado to try to reel things back in? It's already twice. So.
Yeah, I'd say 5.5. I think that's what the oddsmaker said it at.
Yeah, which is fair. But hey, a win is a win, man.
Well, let's talk before we get completely into it. Let's talk about the other Pac-12 games today. Is that Washington game finished yet?
Washington game's over. Yep. Overtime. Washington won.
Wow. That was an interesting one. The Oregon State beating of USC right now is pretty hilarious, and Arizona tried their hardest, but I think Oregon's going to actually end up covering in that game. Fourth quarter, Arizona's actually, I don't know. Arizona's ball, what was it, 28.5? Yeah, they're down by 22. Yeah, 22. So probably not, but yeah, they Oregon took a punch early, and Arizona, it kind of wants to tell the world like, hey, we still know how to play football, somewhat. So good on them for coming out and playing in the first half. They covered the 17.5 spread that they were underdogs for in the first half. But yeah, that game is pretty much over. Utah beats Washington State 24-13. UCLA beat Stanford 35-24. As we mentioned, Washington won that game, and then ASU wraps it up at the night. I really hope we get to watch a Arizona State day game soon. I hope the UCLA game is slated to the day.
No, it's a 7:30.
Oh, it already got picked? Oh,
yep.
man.
Yep. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then the Stanford one also is going to be late too. So
Utah's our next opportunity in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, the second quarter, I saw a couple things that I didn't like. Brendan Lewis was able to get free. The contain on the quarterbacks is still a little bit of an issue, which is weird because of how talented and how fast these linebackers and corners fly around on this field. But then they gifted us that weird quarterback power run on 3rd and 1 that ended up in a field goal that was blocked by Jack Jones. A lot of what happened on the Colorado side of the ball tonight was mostly Colorado's fault, I'd say. ASU was able to force their hand in a lot of weird calls, but yeah, again, it's Colorado.
There was 3. I mean, yeah, I agree with you, and that's a big time concern. Obviously, Jaron Hall last week was a big issue running. He's a big threat with that. Didn't really expect to see it from Colorado, but I mean, I don't know if we're already looking forward to next week, but you got DTR, and obviously their running attack is very, very balanced, similar to ASU. And if you can't contain, a non-running quarterback in Colorado for quite a bit of that third quarter, especially in second quarter as well, DTR has the ability to run all over you for 60 minutes. So that's definitely going to be a problem.
Yeah, the one thing that I don't think ASU's really faced yet is a team that can wear them down on the run or in the run game, because when a team does that to you, it's not only defeating when you're giving up a bunch of yards, which we saw tonight from this ASU team a little bit on a couple drives, but it also is just, it gasses you. And I don't know how much depth this ASU team really has to dig into. So it'll be interesting to see a true test like a Utah team or, as you said, the UCLA team. So I'm excited to see what they can do with that, because the opponents they faced this year so far, they're all kind of the same. It's like there's not really a huge threat at quarterback. They hurt themselves. Aside from the BYU quarterback who played pretty much out of his mind, but I'm interested. I'm definitely interested to see what's going to look like next week.
I want to say this, and I guess it's, everyone always circles that next game as the biggest game. It's like coach speak, but based on what you just said, I totally agree in terms of physicality. You haven't really faced like a really physical team yet. And I know UCLA isn't normally that physical team, especially in years past. This year they are. I mean, if you think back, like they took it to LSU, and mind you, LSU's not Joe Burrow LSU right now, but it's still an SEC team. I thought they were more physical than them. Today, watching that game against Stanford, they were definitely more physical than Stanford, who's always one of the toughest teams in the conference. So you have UCLA, who's proven they're physical this year. Stanford is Stanford. Then you have Utah. So I think kind of the tone of the rest of this year, it's kind of a team that still kind of seems like they're searching for their identity a little bit. Haven't really fully, taken that spot that everyone thought they'd have in terms of their preseason predictions. If you can take care of 2 of these next 3 games, or obviously, hopefully, potentially all 3, that can really set you on a path to potentially winning the South and going further. But if you struggle, in the trenches, like you kind of did last week at times against BYU, then you could easily drop 2 or 3, and then you're in a deep hole that you may never be able to get out of. So this next 3 game stretch is going to come down to physicality, as it always does in conference football, but especially because of these opponents.
Yeah, I would really like to see this ASU team start to play with that chip on their shoulder, as Tone Capone said, mentioning chip train them. Yeah, it was solid. But it'll be good to have him back, because Rachaad White was great tonight, but the change of pace that they add with Chip being, this force and Rachaad White being more of the speed guy, it switches up what the defense is looking for, and when it comes to Jaden Daniels being that third option, I mean, we saw it tonight. He was getting wide open on these the reads. What is the? Why can't I think
Read
of the word?
options. Yeah,
Read
RPOs.
options. Thank you. Sorry,
RPOs.
my brain isn't working today.
It's late, man. It's like 11 o'clock. It's crazy.
But yeah, the read options were really working for ASU tonight. But for the love of God, Jaden, I love you so much. You run your little heart out, but please just get down.
Slide.
We don't. The ASU fans don't need to clench their cheeks every time you run the ball inside of the 10-yard line. Just go down. In a game like this, especially. He ended up scoring, but I just get so scared. He's got that tiny frame, and I know he's trying to eat like 5 meals a day. He's getting bigger, but
I know, and everyone says that he's like, it doesn't really show to me.
Yeah,
I mean, he still looks pretty slender. I want to say one thing about the RPOs and the running style today. In a day and age where it's all about spread them out and throw 40 times or run read options, ASU has officially brought the fullback back. Case Hatch is probably one of my favorite players to watch.
Oh my God, he was so awesome. Not only blocking, but he had that 10-yard reception out of the backfield. He can move for a big guy, big 44. He threw a couple really good blocks, and especially on those RPOs when he's your lead guy, it gives Jaden confidence to just kind of go wherever he wants if 44 is in front of him.
It's essentially like a pulling guard, but he's fast, like you said, and he's not afraid to get physical. I read online Sun Devil Equipment, so the equipment staff said that Case is now broken 2 face masks on the season. He's now broken 2, so that's like as football guy as it gets right there. He is a huge asset to this team.
That's great. Yeah, I thought the blocking in general was really good for this team tonight. But on the other side of the ball, I thought Colorado at points they showed flashes of just absolute domination in the trenches. Their offensive line was they're having their way in that third quarter. It was getting a little scary, but at fourth time it's Colorado, so they ended up squealing those chances away. The gutsy play call at the end of the second paid off in the end, and I think that momentum came in the third. We got the Elijah Badger sighting everybody was waiting for.
About time. Love to see it.
And again, that was provided. The touchdown was provided by great blocking downfield. Those guards and tackles, they love to run. They love to get upfield. And it's something you love to see as somebody that wants your best players, especially receivers and quarterbacks, protected when they're running wide open. And again, the play calling was just awesome tonight, I thought, on offense.
Yeah, I really enjoyed how they opened it up a bit more. And I remember back to when they first hired Zach Hill, and you see Boise State, and automatically your head goes to trick plays and wild formations and shifts. And I think at times early on in the season, they probably weren't going to show all their hands against, SUU and UNLV.
Yeah.
Didn't really see it a whole lot last week, but it was hard to get into any offensive rhythm because of all the flags. But this week, we finally saw, of course, some of those trick plays. And like you said, the blocking was great. And those are all schematic sequences.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed what I saw from the offense. And obviously Hill knows how to call an offense. He's got all the talent you could ask for. Now it's about duplicating that. Now that some of those trick plays are already on film, you gotta think of new wrinkles going forward. And I agree with you. I was really impressed with the play calling today.
Yeah. And it's frustrating as a viewer sometimes when that third down call is a draw or something. So yeah, it was encouraging to see them pull some stuff out of the bag. I don't want them to dip too deep in the bag. I want to save that for later. But the reverse and the double pass was great to see. One theme that we have on the show that we talk about all the time is the fact that ASU's receiving core, not only is it really young, but nobody steps up. There's not that one guy that you think of that they've had in the past with like Ayuk's, Darby's, right. Jalen Strong. And I thought Johnny Wilson said flashes of that tonight. He was that guy that when Jaden Daniels needed to convert on a third down or needed to get some chunk play, Johnny Wilson was that guy. He had one bad drop earlier in the game, but he played pretty much lights out after that.
Yeah, you're still seeing some growing pains from Johnny. It seems like least once a game you're seeing a couple balls that he probably felt like he should have caught, but he's got such a big frame, and that's like the new take a drink every time the broadcasters announce how big he is, because it happens like 4 times a game. But yeah, I agree. He played really well. I really liked LV Bunkley Shelton as well, and I think similar to a White and a Trainum in the backfield, as a wide receiving core with those two guys, you've got speed and athleticism, and then Wilson's just a brute force. He can also run as well, but I think it's a really nice counter on both sides. And it was good to see both of them with over 70 yards receiving. And yeah, David, I agree. I think all Sun Devil fans, dream of that for those two guys to grow into that. But you got to remember, they're still young.
They're redshirt freshmen. They're both redshirt freshmen.
And if you can't 4 games last year, and then you're finally dipping your toes into the waters of conference football this year, I think they're the kind of guys that once they finally have a breakout game and, over 70 yards receiving for both of them tonight could potentially be known as a breakout game. The confidence is going to go sky high. And when you have a quarterback like Jaden Daniels, they could both break out. Like I wouldn't be surprised at all to see them both really settle down, grow confidence, especially Johnny Wilson going forward.
One thing that I was reminded of is Jarek Broussard is a good football player. That man has some crazy change of pace. And it's really cool to see him after all of the injuries kind of still have that explosiveness, because sometimes it either leaves you or it's mental, and they're still kind of easing him into it, but man, he looked really good, and I was pretty happy that they didn't use him more tonight.
Yeah, no, definitely flashes of really good things. First off, before we move on, we both weren't at the game tonight, and I saw that video. I think Brad Denny tweeted out. I can't remember of the team running out. Where were the fans tonight?
That's the gripe, though, man. It's so bizarre, you can't make the excuse that it's hot. I don't think that's an excuse in general, because it was kind of nice out tonight. But that's just that's what it's been like. I mean, ASU is one of the most popular schools in the nation, number 2, and still they can't fill out these stadiums. And I don't know if it's like the loss to BYU hurt. Like if they would have won that game, maybe there's more fans. But it feels like it's like this for every sport. I mean, for basketball, there was a lot of support when they, for the Kansas games and like the big games like that. But you got to come to play every day in the Pac-12. Pac-12 after dark, it's scary. It can get scary.
Totally can. Yeah, I had to say that because I totally agree with you. This just seems like such a short leash. But then it's the same people that don't show up are then saying, why can't we get these big recruits? Why are we always, mediocre year after? It's because it's hard to grow a program when you don't get the support that you deserve. So I had to say that. I had to get that out of the way.
No, 100%. I completely agree with you. Sun Devil fans, if you're not at the games, what are you doing?
Yeah, come on.
Come on. This is an exciting team. The team is very fun to watch. And when the discipline thing is figured out, which it looks like it's trending in the right direction. You got some real wood right here.
Yeah.
It looks like it's trending in the right direction. Fingers crossed. The only thing holding ASU back is ASU. So it'll be interesting to see this team completely let loose against a good opponent in UCLA and try to not hold themselves back. But let's go back to the bad, because we've been talking about the good. Let's go back to the bad. We touched on it a little bit, but the trench battle at the start of the third quarter. And it's not like sometimes when a team comes out after halftime and they are super fired up and they have like a scripted drive. Yeah. This was not a scripted drive because it was all just runs. It was strictly, we can beat them in the run game. Let's just pound it. And that's what they did. They had their way and they just essentially walked in.
Yeah. And here we go again. We're about to go over. It's Colorado. But, starting a second half, especially, that's when good coaches show themselves as good coaches. It's when adjustments are made. And to get punched in the mouth, like you said, 8 plays, 75 yards. It was basically 10 yards per play on that drive. It took 4 minutes. I think I'm speaking for a lot of ASU fans. When I saw that, I said, oh, boy, here we go. Yeah. Because you've seen it so many times before, how it looks like there's a game in hand. It looked like ASU was going to cruise in that first quarter. The rest of the way, they were unable to kind of get things going in the second quarter like we've talked about. So, yeah, those are the kind of drives that you can get away with in a game like this because, their offense had struggled so much. You didn't think it was really sustainable to do it drive after drive. But you can't give up an easy tone setter drive like that to a UCLA, to a Utah, to a USC. Like those are the kind of things that can couple into a huge momentum streak where it can really elevate a talented offense drive after drive to continue to do that. So it's okay in a game like this. Obviously, it's a bit of an eyesore, but you gotta clean that up for next week.
Yeah, and it says something about this team, especially for the young guys, that after that, after the defense gave up that drive, they immediately turned around and were like, "We got you. We got this." As you said, they take that punch in the mouth and they roll it and they score. But then on the next drive, they got lucky on a dropped third down pass halfway through that third quarter. That could have sparked another touchdown drive for the Buffs, but thankfully they I forget, I don't know which receiver it was, but they dropped it coming across the middle, and then from there on it was kind of just the Devils just kind of ran away with it, and the thing that I love so much to see from not only the defense and the secondary, but guys that are stepping up for injured players like Chase Lucas. Jack Jones was CB1 tonight. I mentioned him earlier. He had that huge hit on
Crazy.
Fontenette, just absolutely leveled him, completely decleated him. And that's the type of stuff that this ASU team needs to get going sometimes, because, again, they're a young team, which is weird to say because it feels like these players have been here forever. I mean, Merlin Robertson feels like he's in his 19th year, and they have almost everybody back, but they do need this kind of spark to get going. I don't know if it's something with the mentality that Herm has, or just like a team that gets off to slow starts, because that's what this Devils team is sometimes. So it's good to have big plays like that not only fire you up as a team, but also help you in the long run.
No doubt about that. And, it's one of those things. I also just wanted to talk on this briefly. We're talking about defense, being a little shaky in the third quarter, but overall they played pretty well tonight. We're talking about the offense. The play calling has improved. We're forgetting about the third facet in special teams. That's where they're struggling. I mean, in terms of penalties, I felt so bad for DJ Taylor tonight. He ran like 300 yards, and every single good return he had was being called back.
Yeah.
And he's so talented. It was the punt return.
Talented.
After punt return, and he was breaking them loose. And then there was either a block in the back or, whatever would bring it back. I sound like a coach, but those are the kind of plays as well that can just crush your momentum.
For sure.
So obviously there's things to clean up, but you want to help out one of the most explosive guys in the Pac-12, which is DJ Taylor. And they definitely didn't do him any favors tonight in terms of, receiving punts and having good returns called back.
Yeah, it seems like every time he touches the ball, he gets shot out of a cannon. He always has that running start, and that scares me a little bit. But he has that sense of where he is on the field, how much space he's going to be able to create and get through. And he's just, he's so fired up, man. Even when he knows the play is getting called back, you can see him just screaming. Like, he's awesome. It's college football, man. At the end of the day, it's college football, and that's what gets you wins. Is plays like that, players like that. Emotions are high in these games, and that's why I'm super thankful that the taunting rule hasn't come to the NCAA yet. That is the most painful thing ever. The targeting, there was only one tonight, so those are so hard to avoid, though. There's nothing you can really do about it.
That was a pretty obvious one.
For sure.
Yeah, that one was
it was targeting
obvious.
through and through. It was targeting through and through, but at the same time, it's the rule, and I understand the rule. I support the rule. You have to protect the players. It's just it's so hard to, especially being in a situation like that when you're just trying to get to the quarterback, and unfortunately your head tips or whatever. But it's just hard. It's really hard.
It's so hard, and I feel like they've leveled it off a little bit this year. They're not making the player leave the field, which was insane. Now I think that next step is having a tier system. Is it warranted of an ejection, or should it just be a 15-yard penalty, and then if you get 2, you're gone? Should it just be like a personal foul the first time? If it's a serious targeting, like tonight's probably would have fit under that. And of course, we all watch enough football to know what warrants is like an obvious targeting call. But sometimes it's like one of those plays where, the head's lowered and the receiver has to come down and catch the ball, and it's targeting, but it obviously wasn't intentional. So I don't know. It's one of those deals that it's so frustrating to watch as a fan, and it totally can impact the entire game there on out. Or if it happens in the second half, it impacts next week's game. So it's so frustrating.
One thing that that you can't really question about this ASU team is their will and heart, because obviously it's not like these players want to commit penalties. It's not like they want to march back all the time. But this hasn't been a team, even when it got super bad in the BYU game, this has never been a team to put their head down. And I think that speaks a lot of Herm and the coaching staff. LV Bunkley Sheldon was the one that called that fair catch within the 5, right? That wasn't DJ Taylor that time. And then immediately, instead of like being like, he was pissed at himself at first, of course, but on that third down, that same drive, he had a huge catch for like 30 yards. And it just speaks volumes, especially again, these young guys, man. It's so impressive to see. And the decommits coming that are probably coming soon because of everything. You're in good hands as a Sun Devil fan right now with a young core like this, an explosive and fun young core like Bunkley Sheldon, Wilson, and the running back core. It's exciting.
I think a big reason for that is because like they have that confidence. Like you think of USC, not now, but in the past, like they just had that swagger.
Yeah,
I'm not comparing ASU to USC because when you start winning games for that, but the players, like they have that belief. Like we're just better than you. Like we don't care about one penalty. We don't care about one mistake. We're more talented than you. And I don't think that's something that can be said in terms of that swagger. I don't think ASU's really had that a lot in the past. This team definitely has it, and it's a lot of fun to watch, like you said, because no matter what happens, it can also be frustrating at times as well. But it's a double-edged sword of sorts. But they just flat out believe they're more talented than their opponent, and most of the time, so far at least, they've been correct.
I mean, I think that this ASU team was far more talented than BYU, and I think they believed that, and that was not the issue. Obviously, it was them hurting themselves, but we don't have to touch on that because I touched on that a lot last week, and we're talking wins, so let's be happy. But before we do that, I just want to remind people that right now, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. You could have bet $1 on tonight's game, and you would have gotten $150 in free bets if you're a new member. Use that promo code PHNX. You get $150 in your free bets just placing $1 on any football game. They have these really fun same game parlays. Are you a gambler, Braiden?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite things, especially on DraftKings, is live betting games, but also hitting those player props during the game or the same game parlays before the game, because not only is the app super fast, but it's super easy to like use. And once you realize the jargon of sports betting and what everything means, it's super easy to understand where you want to degenerately spend your money. And that's why I love DraftKings, because they make it easy for me to be a piece of shit sometimes. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use code PHNX, get your $150 in free bets. When you place $1 or more on any football game, that's promo code PHNX. 21 plus, Arizona only, gambling problem, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only, minimum $5 deposit, $1 wager required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. That's how you know I'm kind of out of it right now, because I usually murder that disclaimer. That's like my strong suit in the company right now, I think. Another thing, if you go over to gophnx.com, you can read some really good stuff that Britt's putting out an article. Normally who I'd be joined by Brittany Boyer. She's putting out an article. She already put it out, the first part of her series of why ASU will always be a sleeping giant. And she talked to Juan Roque and got some really good stuff out of him. And it's some really interesting stuff. So if you're interested in content like that or anything else, kind of in that same vein, we're going to start doing some video content. There's some really cool t-shirts. If you go to phnxlocker.com, you can get a first month subscription for 50 cents, or you can get an annual subscription for $60 and you get a free t-shirt. There's an ASU shirt coming soon. It is really sick. I wish I could tell you what it says, but I'll let you guys see for yourself when we tweet it out. But yeah, head over to gophnx.com and support us because we love all the support we've been getting, and the family that is kind of being built around this culture that is PHNX. So yeah, go to that website and also subscribe and hit that like button, baby. Hit that like button.
Yeah. No doubt. And I had to bring this up real quick. Brittany keeps the article about sleeping giants. PHNX is not going to be sleeping. It's just going to be a giant. There's no sleeping going to be
I
involved.
love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
Well,
Had to throw that in there.
I'll be sleeping pretty soon here before we wrap up because I had a very long weekend. Did you do anything fun this weekend?
Oh, I did too many fun things.
Yeah.
I did too many fun. Here's the thing. It's 11:17 here. Imagine
Mhm.
being a Sun Devil fan on the East Coast, and I know a
Dude.
few. Like we're complaining. It's
Yeah.
2:15 in the morning on the East Coast. How do they do it?
I wouldn't be able to. I know people that are fans of NBA teams that live in like Europe, and I'm just like, dude,
Oh,
I can't. I love the Suns, but man, if I had to wake up at 3 a.m. to watch a game, I don't know if I could do that to myself.
ruined your whole day.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
Yeah, it's brutal. Yeah, I had a pretty good night last night. I went out with some of the DNVR folks that were down here for the CU game. We came up with the nickname Spready Bridgewater because he's a 30-11 against the spread. So that was a good thing. Good things always come out
ooh,
of yeah.
I like
If
that.
you want to sprinkle on that
Ah.
DraftKings Sportsbook app again with Teddy Bridgewater, he Spready Bridgewater, he's really good against the spread.
And as we know, good quarterbacks win. Great quarterbacks
cover always.
Yep.
Well, let's get into some more ASU stuff. Upcoming schedule. Let's talk briefly about UCLA. We touched on it a little bit. What are you expecting to see from the get-go with this team going into UCLA? They had their first true road test, and clearly it bothered them. Clearly the young guys were shaken up. Lots of false starts, lots of just dumb things. I'm glad that there were no running the wrong way plays today because there was a lot of miscommunication in the first couple weeks. Finally, week 4 looks like a week 4, and week 3 looked like a week 1. So what are you expecting from them on Saturday, and what do you hope to see on Saturday?
Well, obviously, I think the first thing is not beating yourselves, and I think every ASU fan would say that. But I do want to go ahead and say that this isn't going to be nearly as hard of a atmosphere as Provo, Utah was. That was a sold out crowd. There was like 60,000 people there. It'll probably be a pretty sleepy night. I know UCLA's ranked, but they had trouble selling out the LSU game, and you know how the Rose Bowl's made, and it's not always the loudest stadium. So I think that'll first off benefit the Devils, but. I think it's going to come down to trying to limit the run and limit big plays as well. And I know you could say that about every single game, but with Charbonnet, the Michigan transfer running back, who's been great for them so far, and then Dorian Thompson-Robinson, of course, he's basically like a Jaden Daniels in terms of running as well. It's going to come down to limiting big plays, not beating yourselves, and then trying to hammer down the run a little bit on defense. And then for offense, I think it's what we touched on earlier. Can one of those young receivers break out? I think that the running game will be able to have some success against UCLA and hopefully Trainham's. I love that Sprite Zero.
That's really exactly good.
Right. Caffeine-free soda is all that was. But I think it's going to come down to can one of those young receivers, whether it's Johnny Wilson or LV Bunkley Shelton or whoever it is. Andre Johnson's shown some flashes so far this year. Whoever it is, one of those receivers needs to kind of have a big night. So then you don't just have to rely on running the ball with Jaden and the 2 or 3 running backs, hopefully Chip's back. But that's the key offensively. I think it's going to be a really good game, really entertaining as well.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to address this comment. Andrew said they had 7 penalties, clean game, ? We're not saying it was a clean game. We're saying it was cleaner. No. We mentioned this at the start of the show. We said it was better than last week, but 7, definitely. It's not 7 for 90 yards, I believe. But we're trending in the right direction in terms of penalties. We knocked on wood. We kept our fingers crossed. Andrew, trust me, we are so far from happy watching a still borderline undisciplined ASU team. But
it's all about perspective. It's all about perspective. It's just like how Arizona fans would be like, well, tonight we only lost 41-19. That's a good game. Whereas if you were a fan of a real college football team, you probably still would be very happy. It's all about perspective, folks. That's all it is.
Our GM Saul Bookman, he's a U of A grad. His bet this week, the DraftKings pick of the week this week was U of A to cover that plus 17.5 at halftime. And he was like,
Wow.
fuck yeah, hell yeah, like sent it in the chat. And then he was like, wait, why did it tell me I lost? And he bet on the money line. He's like, what's the difference? I'm like, oh no, Saul.
Saul, no.
It
Oh,
was
those
sad.
odds would have been incredible, I'm
They were
sure.
plus 950. So yeah, I'll get them in the lab. We're getting some betting 101 content out here soon. I compared it to teaching a child how to smoke a cigarette. I don't know if it's the best thing to teach people how to gamble, but if you're interested in it, there'll be some content coming out on that. Closing thoughts, wrapping up. Put the game in a whole, or for the game as a whole. Wrap it all up. I genuinely. I'm not going to say I'm over the moon. I'm not going to say I'm super ecstatic about this team, how they played. One thing I didn't mention is Jaden Still is missing throws that he shouldn't. And that concerns me a little bit because I like how he's staying in the pocket a little more. The line is holding up for the most part, but there are still some throws that he needs to be able to make. But there are also throws that he has been lasering in there. There's a couple. There's one to Bunkley Shelton that Bunkley Shelton made a great catch on. The one to Johnny Wilson up the seam was beautiful. But if you want to be an elite level Pac-12 quarterback, if you want to be an elite quarterback in the NCAA, like people have been saying he is for years, and he definitely has a talent to be that, you have to make these throws. And I'm not sure if it's because he's I don't think he's in his head, but I think he to some extent prides himself so much on being a quarterback that doesn't throw interceptions, and especially from going from 3 in his entire career to 6 in 2 games changes a lot. So it might be a little mental, but that's one of the concerning things that I didn't.
We lost you.
Hello?
There you go. You're back.
Yeah, I was definitely more impressed with this ASU team. Thank God. If I were on the show right now saying I wasn't impressed and we were talking about an ASU loss, the show would have been wrapped up 20 minutes ago.
Give me a letter grade.
Yeah.
What's a letter grade for the night?
B, between B and B plus. So like a B
That's what I have it as.
Yeah. It's definitely still some things to work out. But as we've said, the talent is there. And
100%.
And it's just about executing at this point. So yeah, B to B plus.
I think, there were obviously still some big errors and we've addressed those, but tonight we saw the most flashes, if you will, that we've seen so far out of this team. Now it's about putting it together of course, there's not going to ever be a perfect game. You're going to make mistakes, but now it's about, and it's going to have to round into form against UCLA. By far, I think their biggest challenge, even more so than BYU in terms of talent level, teams that are executing. I think UCLA will be the biggest challenge yet. So now you have to kind of put the good things you did tonight and try to, make that a more common occurrence going into next week. And it's, it's one of those games that the momentum of the season kind of fell off. And sure, fans didn't show up tonight. If you beat UCLA, hey, you're now 2-0 in Pac-12 play, and everyone needs to jump back on the bandwagon. So it's a big one.
It's going to be huge. And I think one of the biggest things besides penalties and just overall discipline. So one thing, no turnovers. So that's huge. I thought who was, I think Johnny Wilson maybe, or was it Hodges? One of them fumbled, and they didn't mention it on the broadcast. And one of them went down when they got tackled, and then all of a sudden Bunkley Shelton came up with the ball, and they didn't notice it. I'm like, well, it was terrifying. I was really scared for a second, but they're holding on to the ball. But my biggest thing that I want to see from this team going into UCLA is the play calling staying the same. Switch it up, get Jaden out of the pocket on these read options. We said we wanted to find that guy in this receiving core, but sprinkling around is great for a 1st and 10. But when it comes to that 3rd and 17, I want a guy like Johnny Wilson being that guy. But that Rashad White wheel route call was beautiful. But he heard some footsteps and dropped it. But that was a beautiful play call. I loved that. That was the only mark on Rashad White that I didn't like tonight. So that's saying something.
And I almost, especially now that it was a 35-13 win, I'm almost glad he didn't catch that because he would have gotten blown up.
Yeah,
And if that
yeah,
would have sacrificed him for next week, I don't know if it would
yeah,
have been worth it. But
yeah.
yeah, that was a great play design. And I think if Jaden would have led him a little further, he probably just would have walked into the end zone. But also, gold uniforms. Fan? No?
So we talked about this on our Friday show. We do this thing called Trash or Treasure.
Yeah.
Everybody, it was a consensus treasure. We had them in studio, and they looked great in person. And the only thing that was throwing me off was the two different shades of gold. Like the yellow on the actual jersey and then the accent on the side. And I was like, okay, that's throwing me off a little bit in person, but just like the pearlescent helmets, they're probably going to look really good under the lights. I didn't think they looked great under the lights. I think they're kind of okay. Not bad, not good.
Yeah, I think we're getting off on a tangent here. The uniform combos this year. Okay. The uniform combos this year have been awesome. I've loved all of them. I think this might be my least favorite so far, though.
Yeah.
Which is not saying it was bad because I still thought they looked good, but the uniforms this year all around, those helmets they wore against UNLV were unbelievable. I can't wait to see those again.
We had one of the lead groundskeepers on our show like a week ago, and he told me something that I didn't know they did. They consult with the equipment people to see what jerseys they're going to be wearing, and they plan a field thing or like a field pattern for the games. So tonight they had that the Arizona State flag. Yeah. So that was sweet. I didn't know they did that. I thought that was really cool. One jersey combo that I didn't like, which usually I love, Oregon tonight. I thought the black and green, it didn't work for me. The pants and jersey combo was, and usually they're great at that. I just didn't like it. Too bold, I think.
Well, yeah, like the jerseys were like too out there because there was no black, so it was just like green, yellow, and then like okay, we'll be chill on the helmet and the pants. I agree. And they played like they didn't really like what they were wearing either for the first 3 quarters of that game.
Yeah, I definitely think they were looking ahead, looking past U of A team that lost to a pretty awesome NAU football program.
And then Lumberjacks lost tonight, by the way. That needs to be addressed. How NAU
you do need to address that.
Yeah, let's look it up. I can't remember who they lost to, but the fact that they lost after taking care of Arizona is also pretty hilarious. Let's see here. Pull this up. Lumberjack football. Northern Colorado in overtime, 17-10.
The fabled Northern Colorado. They're going to be talking about that game for years.
Oh, yeah. They just beat the team who took down a Pac-12 squad. Great.
All right. Anything else to add, Braiden, before we hop on out of here and get our silly little heads to rest?
Yeah. First off, let's get some sleep. But no, I mean, so first off, when they play Stanford at home, hopefully it's after a win next week. I know it's a Friday night. I know there's high school football. I know all of your excuses all of you used before. I've heard them before. Come support that team. Come on. If you want ASU to be competitive, you have to go out there and support the team. But as far as next week's goes, like that's a season-defining game, I think, either way. Truly is.
Yeah, the players obviously have mentioned how much they feed off of the crowd, especially the redshirt kids or the freshmen or sophomores this year that didn't get a crowd last year. It helps them a lot. So in big games, if they don't have the backing of an entire stadium, it might disappoint them a little bit. And we don't want to disappoint our nice little college guys running around playing football. We love those guys. So yeah, go out and support. Please be loud. They're gonna need it. With this Pac-12 schedule coming up, it's gonna get rough. But I'm excited, and I definitely liked what I saw tonight. So we will be back, I believe, on Monday. I'm back in the studio tomorrow at 9 a.m. for our football show. So nice turnaround. So it's going to be on the PHNX YouTube channel and the PHNX Twitter. So make sure to follow, turn that notification bell on, like, subscribe, and come see us next time. Braiden, fantastic stuff as always. I appreciate you joining me on late notice. I feel like we have a nice connection. Man. After a Pac-12 After Dark game, I feel something a little special here.
Yeah, there's some sparks flying. I don't know what to make of it. It's a lot. No, but thanks for having me, man. It was fun.
Yeah, of course. All right, guys. Follow, like, subscribe, PHNX _sports, and PHNX _Sun Devils. And yeah, catch you next time. Peace.